In a world where losing in your fantasy football league isn't an option, we present to you Triple Coverage Podcast.
Hey YouTubers, make sure you click subscribe below if you want to see more videos with TCP. Today we're going to talk about the NFC North in our Division Breakdown series. So crack a cold one, sit back, and enjoy.
In a world where losing in your fantasy football league isn't an option, we present to you Triple Coverage Podcast.
But there's no way that Washington finishes better than Dallas.
Zero chance.
I'm not saying Dallas is going to win the Super Bowl. I'm not even saying they're making the playoffs, but there's no way that Washington's finishing better than Dallas.
What makes you think Washington's so bad?
They're not good. Okay.
No, okay. All right.
They're not good.
But you know what is good?
Being triple covered, or no?
Oh yeah, that's good too.
Okay, what else is good?
What else
The
is
NFC North.
Oh,
They're good.
very good.
So we're gonna break down the NFC North division today. I'm joined by the brothers up. I got James over here on my right,
What's up, guys?
and Jay up over here on my left.
What?
And I'm Travis Sutton right in the middle.
What's your tagline? Oh, whoa, what was that?
I can't even duplicate
What
that.
is that?
Was that your
Oh.
Wheeze one,
Oh.
or was that your other one?
What are you trying to do? The
Both.
the
I'm
wheeze?
trying to
He's
do
trying to do that
both.
one. It's like,
That's weird. Yeah, all right, Wheezy, let's go.
All right, so we're going to start with Chicago. We're going to the Windy City, the Chicago Bears. Last year, is that wind?
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, you're supposed to keep talking.
Oh, last year, the Chicago Bears, 5-11. The Soldier Field. Is it still Soldier Field?
Yes.
Or did they rename it? They keep renaming everything. I'm sure it's like AT&T something.
yeah, Pacific Bank, Soldier Field or something. Who knows?
Bring back the good stuff.
We should do that. We should do Triple Coverage Podcast Arena. How much money do you need for that?
What are we gonna do? Play in it? Or what are we gonna?
No, what do you mean? No, we sponsor it.
We sponsor it, bro.
Yeah,
we're
Go
all
for
we're
Monday
almost-
nights playing,
we're almost there.
TCP
TCP
Arena.
Arena.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
We're almost there.
Think big, fellas. Think big, okay?
I like it. All right, so the Chicago Bears, 5-11 last year. We're gonna hit. We're gonna spend not too much time on these. We're gonna speed through this.
10 minutes,
Hold
fair?
about 40 minutes for the whole thing.
Yep, fair and firm. Or firm and fair.
It's because we're young and aggressive.
Yes,
That's right.
Some of us.
Fantasy relevance. So everything's going to kind of revolve around baseline 12 team. PPR start, one quarterback start, one tight end.
Yep.
As we talk. So,
You listen.
yes, you listen. Soak it in. Soak in these nuggets.
Let's. This is what I'm gonna do. Trubisky, second-year quarterback. He's a QB2. Anybody think otherwise?
Well, the Bears finished last in the division.
Yeah.
So
They're
they can
on their
only
way.
go up.
They're on their way again, though.
All
No,
right.
they can't.
What?
Well, I
think
guess
they're-
they can, but they're not gonna.
I think they're better than a 5-11 team this year. I don't know.
I have them at 7 and 9.
Do you think they're
There you go.
better than last place in the division?
No. The only possible team they're beating out is Detroit Lions,
Correct.
and that's because Detroit Lions has a very tough schedule. We'll get to that later, but no, they're not going to finish higher than at the highest I have them is 7 and 9 for the Bears.
And that's still good enough for last.
Yeah, unfortunately, this division's tough. You have Minnesota and Green Bay. You have two powerhouses that are for sure going to win more than 10 games, most likely. So it literally is Detroit and Chicago who finishes last.
All right, so
Right.
the worst is first.
Yep.
Quarterbacks. Mitchell, Trubisky.
Yep, he's your number 2 most likely, and you feel comfortable with that. I hope he's not your number 1 starter.
Yeah, hopefully he's your number
And you know what? He's going to be the only guy there to do anything. So he's got his job cemented. So I think we move on to the running back.
And he's got a more creative offensive coordinator.
Well, let's let Jay say something too.
Nah, he just did.
Single coverage.
Yeah, well, you just did,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, we don't get to say anything about
You
Mitchell.
just did. He's got a new coordinator.
That's enough.
New head coach.
If you're in Superflex, it's probably a good guy to have in the rotation as well. You want to have solid options at quarterback and Superflex. But yes, other than that, there's nothing behind him. Let's move on to running backs. We got Jordan Howard and Tariq Cohen are the two guys of note. I don't think anybody else is really worth mentioning in any format.
No.
Nothing's
Other than,
changed there
like,
either.
20-man starting lineups, maybe.
I don't. The one quick thing is with Jordan Howard. What's the hate on him? Like, why is he not being? Why is he not going? Like, it seems like every time I see a Twitter poll or anything talked about it, like he's just not considered a top back, but he's finishing at the back end of a RB1. and I know he can't catch, but he doesn't have to because you have Cohen. So
Okay,
what's the knock on Howard?
The hate on him is from fantasy circles, not from like NFL circles.
Correct. So in fantasy though, he's a Q. I mean, I'm sorry, he's an RB1. So what's the hate on
The
him?
hate on him is that he doesn't catch. And now that everyone says, "Oh, is it PPR or standard?" To me, PPR is more of the standard
Now it is, yes.
nowadays. Like it's come a long way. So PPR to me is more the standard than the whole just basic touchdowns and yards.
Oh, okay, yeah, but they are different. Like standard is, you know, basically touchdown dependent,
Correct.
based. So I see the argument because yeah, he doesn't catch a lot, and it's because of where he gets drafted.
Right,
Because
okay.
he produces so well and does so well, he gets drafted in that echelon of guys that, especially if you're in standard, he's a good option.
Mhm.
But in PPR, not so much. But you still take him there because that's where he ends up kind of
But
ranking.
you know what I'm saying? In PPR last season in our league, he finished number 12.
And I also think it's because when he came in, he was very unheralded,
Mhm.
and I think it's more of everybody waiting for the bottom to fall out and wanting to be ahead of that curve, and
Right.
not just buying into it. Even though he's gotten tons of carries and he's produced
sure.
very well.
Yeah.
And his what is he, a 5th round pick or something like that? Like
late pick, yes.
he's
a
done
guy.
very well, but it's hard to just buy into and believe into him for some reason. I think.
5th round pick in 2016 out of Indiana. He's a guy for me that I would love as my number 2 running back, but if he's my number 1 running back and I kind of waited and went receiver, I'm a little like
Really?
yeah.
If you went Antonio Brown and like whatever, Antonio Brown, Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
Wow, that was weird. Okay, Antonio Brown and Devontae Adams, and then Jordan Howard's your number 1. You're not okay with those 3? I'm very happy with those
No,
3.
I'm okay with those 3. I'm just saying that I
As
don't
his
know.
number 1.
As my number 1, I'm sketched out by it.
See, I'm
But
okay
if
with
he's my
him.
number 2, I love it.
So how many catches do you think he had? Since he doesn't catch, or he drops a lot of balls, I should say. He's very unsure-handed, I guess you would say. How many catches do you think he had last year without looking?
23.
Yeah, good look. He had 23 catches last season, which is like
32 targets?
Yeah, 32 targets, exactly. What are you guys looking at my stats?
Not at
No,
all.
but he had 5 drops, 5 drops out of 32 targets. But like that doesn't matter to me. The drops, yes, he can't catch it. I agree. Like they're not going to throw to him often. But if the guy is a I keep saying QB. If he's an RB1 and he's still getting 20 to 30 catches, like that's still, you know, he's still relevant in the passing game to somewhat.
Enough.
Like Cohen had 71 targets and only 53 catches. So he had 53 catches, only 2 drops. We know that what Cohen is. We know that he can catch the ball. We know that's where he kind of fits in there. But as far as reception-wise, he only had 30 more catches than Howard, and Howard had a ton more yards than he did. Like a ton.
Are you guys buying into the narrative that they're going to use Cohen all over the field like they did with Tyreek Hill and Kansas
I
City
don't
last
know.
year?
I think last season would have been the season to do that. Now the new coordinator's there. I don't really know.
Now with John Fox.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But now it's like you have too many options there. Like you said on a previous episode with the Taylor Gabriels and Allen Robinsons and Burton and Shaheen and all these other guys. Anthony Miller's coming in. It's just where's he? He's not going to go in the slot. Like where do you put him?
He could.
Yeah.
No, Anthony Miller is going to be in the slot.
I'm
But
buying
you're not
into
gonna
it
have-
somewhat.
You're going to have multiple guys that will be moved in and put in different formations. So he won't specifically or just only line up in the slot. But I think you could use him in the slot or put him out wide in different formations. Or even just bring him out of the backfield. Have 2 running backs back there sometimes and send him out on a...
Speaking of a guy, though, that to me, the hype train's getting a little bit too much for me, is Cohen. Cohen, in a lot of our dynasty leagues, people that do own him want like multiple second-round picks or a high-end second or yes. Tony wants multiple picks. But just whatever. I'm just using that as an example. Like, people want you to pay for Cohen. And it's like, okay, Cohen had a decent season last season. Now it's going to be a second year, new offense, new all this kind of stuff. Like, to me, he's one of those guys that's like, I'm very unsure about. They could use him ridiculous and he could have a great season, or they could go more towards Jordan Howard and the receivers and the tight ends, and Cohen can kind of, you know, take a little bit of a dip or just maintain what he was at. I don't think that he's going to go very much higher than 53 catches. Like, you see him getting more than 60? I don't.
No, I think it's right around there. I
Right.
think Howard, he gets 250 plus carries. He had 276
It's a lot.
last year.
Yeah.
So he had like 1,100 yards, 9 touchdowns. It was a nice season, and I think that's why he gets drafted high, because at the end of the year he does have
He's
nice,
the guy, yeah.
nice stats. So
And
he
he's
is
young.
the guy running, yes. I mean, I have that feeling of wanting to fade him when it comes to like startups and drafting. Like, for whatever reason, I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm biased, or maybe I'm subconsciously buying into that narrative, but I tend to find myself not pounding the table for him and running out and
Correct.
trying to draft
Correct.
him.
Yeah.
The other thing that's kind of sketchy with him though too is that like last year their defense wasn't that great, and so when you're behind and you're always playing catch up, you
Right.
don't want the running back that doesn't catch. It's like
Right.
Trey Cohen's going to be in there when it's a hurry up offense.
Right. Fourth quarter is basically Cohen time.
That's what I'm
Last
saying.
season,
so
when they were
it's
5-11.
So that's the other part that kind of sketches me out is that like, these teams that have to go into the hurry up offense because they're behind every game. That
Well,
takes them out of the
I
entire
don't see,
fourth
I
quarter.
don't see much of that changing. But real quick, because we only have a couple minutes here, let's move on to the wide receivers. So wide receivers from last season to this year, they lost a lot of guys. They lost Cameron Meredith, who didn't really get a chance to play because he got hurt right at the beginning of the season. But Cameron Meredith, Kendall Wright, Zach Miller, Deontay Thompson, Marcus Wheaton, Trey McBride, Dontrell Inman. They lost 7 guys that were their last season's receiving core. Total of last season, they had 216 targets. So you have 216 targets up for grabs there. They add Allen Robinson, Taylor Gabriel, Trey Burton at tight end, and Anthony Miller as a rookie. So 216 targets to kind of go around. They threw the ball 473 times last season. So there's 473, let's say 450 to 500-ish targets to go around. Who's going to get the bulk of these targets? Because there's so many options and so many mouths to feed. Clearly, it's Allen Robinson is number one by far. So let's say he gets his 130 targets like a normal wide receiver one would get. Where does the other 320-ish targets go? Just all over, or who's a clear-cut number 2 option in the passing game? Is it Cohen at running back?
I don't think there is a clear-cut number 2 in the receiving option. I think that
So
they're
the
gonna
rest
try
of
to
it's spread around.
Anthony. I think it's gonna be all spread around between Miller, Gabriel, Trey Burton, Adam Shaheen.
Well, pick
Tariq
your number.
Cohen.
Pick your number 2.
Well, I think it's.
Plant your flag.
I don't necessarily. It could be spread around, but I think it's up for grabs. Is how I feel. I feel like it's definitely up for grabs. So if Anthony Miller comes in and he can shine and do some things, he might be able to get that. If Kevin White can come back from an injury and he can jive with what they're trying to do there and stay healthy, he could get that.
Yeah.
Like,
Who's
Tariq
that?
Cohen as well could definitely be very involved with that. He was the
Or-
second leading receiver last
Or
year.
one of the 2 tight ends. I think that between Burton and Shaheen, it's a toss-up, and I think also between Gabriel and Anthony Miller, it's also a toss-up, and so then you have Kevin White as well. So you have all these guys that are trying to get the second receiving option, but it could be any one of those guys at any given week. And I think this is gonna be one of those times where it's like whoever Chicago receiver outside of Allen Robinson, that guy is gonna be your flex guy for majority of the season. It's gonna be like one of those spot plays of like, dang, can I really start Taylor Gabriel here? Nah, okay, I don't. And then he goes off. And the next game, you don't hear from him. And then the next game or 2 games later, he goes off again. And it's going to be a very inconsistent balance of who actually is a wide receiver 2 and 3 and who's those options.
If you look
I wouldn't be eager to have one of those guys on my team to have to start every single week.
Look at the wide receiving crew out there, and who is the elder statesman out of all those guys?
Allen Robinson or
No,
Kevin White?
Kevin White. He's been there the longest now. on the
Oh,
team.
yeah, longest on the team, yes.
The most tenured guy.
Most tenured. There
But
you
if
go.
you can get Kevin White for where he's going, which in most
It's
leagues
like free.
he's not going,
Yeah, he's like
right?
free.
If you can get him and somehow he squeezes into the wide receiver 2 or even 3 role and gets like 50 catches or whatever, he could be a flex option moving forward. They drafted him in the first round, so
if he stays healthy,
yes, but
he's going to be a good option. 'Cause
clearly
when you
that's a
watch
huge
the
if.
Small sample sizes you've been able to watch him. He's a big guy. He might not have the exact same speed that he had when he got drafted because of some of the injuries, but he's a big dude and he's athletic and you can see the talent he has. It's just a matter of staying healthy.
you want
I
to see
feel
it.
like.
I want to see it. I want to see him healthy. I want to see how he goes with Allen Robinson. Now he has that wide receiver 1 that's a legit wide receiver 1 or has a potential to be the wide receiver 1. And he's not going to be getting double teamed. He's not going to be the only show in town. Like, he's just going to be a guy. And maybe at this point, the Bears and all the fantasy football fans that play fantasy don't expect a gigantic season as Kevin White. There's no pressure there.
Right,
Just stay healthy, do what you do day in and day out, practice with the team, and get a rapport with Trubisky, and just be yourself. You don't have to be this stud wide receiver. When he was drafted, that's how he was drafted to be. Was like this end-all, be-all Calvin Johnson type wide receiver stud, and like it never worked out because he got hurt.
I don't know about Calvin Johnson type, but yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Like, he was kind of the number 1 de facto there.
Yeah, first round, 7th
never
overall.
got a chance to really
7th overall pick.
to do it. So with Allen Robinson come in, I think yes, that's huge. That takes off a lot of pressure. He can just come in and just play. Like, his whole family is football players, so he's got talent, he's got skill. He's not just some scrub. but it's all about being healthy. Best case scenario, he comes back healthy, can slide into the number 2. Anthony Miller can maybe slide in and play the slot. And if those guys can all kind of work out just
The roles.
the best case scenario, they could be dangerous. Dude.
Yes, I agree. It's just, it sucks that they're in such a tough division, which brings us to the second team in the division, which is who, Jay?
You don't want to talk about Trey Burton or Adam Shaheen at all?
No tight ends?
Go ahead. We got to make it quick.
Let's make it really quick, but they have 2 tight ends there. We don't know if they're going to run a 2 tight end set or not, but you have Trey Burton, who's obviously the guy they brought in to be the number 1 tight end, and then you have the second-year player in Adam Shaheen.
You got the old man Deion Sims.
Deion Sims is there, but he's more of a blocking guy. He's not going to be the guy that comes in and gets a lot of receptions. To me, Shaheen is kind of a project guy. I mean, obviously they like what they saw in him because they drafted him relatively early. He's only coming into a second year, though, so they wanted to bring in somebody that's going to contribute right away. That's why they brought in Trey Burton.
That move surprises me.
Definitely a guy that can finish in the top 12. I'm not super high on Burton, but I think he could finish in the top 12 as far as tight ends.
Listen, connect the dots.
Yeah.
Where was Trey Burton playing prior to Chicago?
Philadelphia Eagles.
Who was the coach?
The head coach, Peterman.
Peterson.
Whatever.
Peterman's
Nathan Peterman. No.
Where was he coaching prior to the Eagles?
I don't know.
Kansas City.
Kansas City. Where was Nagy coaching prior to the Bears?
Kansas City.
Okay, so there's dots connected. So clearly, they know, or I'm sure they have some communication about the type of player that Burton is, how they used the tight end in Kansas City. Now they're on different teams. You saw Peterson use Burton when Ertz went down. So there's that narrative to be made that he's going to be involved. The extent of it was yet to be seen. Like, it's risky to buy in, I think. Just dive
for
in
where
and
he's
buy
going.
in.
Yeah, for where he's for sure.
I'm interested. I'm very interested to see what happens in Chicago this year.
If you're drafting Trey Burton as your tight end 1, make sure you take a tight end 2 later.
Good luck.
Let's move on to Detroit Lions here. Obviously, there's not a whole lot to say about Matt Stafford. To me, he's a top 10 quarterback in every fantasy realm, even if it's a super flex. You guys have anything to say about Matt Stafford? I mean, he pretty much speaks for himself.
Top 7 every single year, so move on from him. It's pretty clear cut.
Let's move on to the running backs. This is something we definitely want to talk about for a few minutes.
Detroit finished 9-7 last season, but the thing that was alarming to me is we usually play pretty decent at home because I'm a Lions fan, obviously. But last season we finished 4-4 at home. We split 4-4. On the road we were 5-3. So we actually had a better road record than we did at home. We kind of got bullied at home, and we need to get back to winning home games. Running back to me is where we should spend the majority of our time here, is because
let's do it.
We haven't had a running game. We haven't had a big running back ever, even since Sanders, since before Sanders, since after Barry Sanders. We just haven't had that guy. They add LeGarrette Blount free agency, which I love because Patricia's the head coach. He knows him pretty well. Then you go and you draft Kerryon Johnson. You trade up to get him. So in the running back backfield, you have Kerryon Johnson, Theo Riddick, you have LeGarrette Blount, and you have Amir Abdullah. We kind of said earlier, a couple weeks ago, that Amir Abdullah, we all kind of agreed, is probably the odd man out, and if he does get traded, could be producing pretty well for somebody else. I don't see where he fits in the Detroit backfield. So you have those main 3 guys. Kerryon, you have LeGarrette Blount, and you have Theo Riddick. What do you guys think about these 3 guys? Anything in particular?
Nothing in particular jumps out at me. I think
how's
that
it
we
gonna
talked
shake
about
down?
it before, and I think that they literally brought in LeGarrette Blount to not always have first, second down, but he's going to be their short yardage guy, and he's also going to be their goal line back. So if you're banking on taking Kerryon Johnson in a redraft league, I think that he could have struggles this year. In dynasty leagues, is a completely different aspect. He's going to be there, for the long haul, and LeGarrette Blount's not going to last long. But if you're talking a redraft only, then I don't really see a whole lot of value right away with Kerryon Johnson.
At this point, and it's June right now. So by the time your redraft does come around, he's definitely a guy to keep an eye on because he is a guy that could take the reins on that job. But that's yet to be seen in preseason and training camp and how everything's coming out of there. But yeah, right now it looks to be a very much a committee. So yeah, it's very sketchy if you're balls to the walls and you're all in on Kerryon Johnson in a redraft. You better be careful because that's a risky move. Because LeGarrette Blount, they did bring him in for goal line short yardage. He can,
which we never have. Usually we get inside the 5-yard line and we'll pass the ball 3 straight times because we don't have a back that can bully through the offensive line and get through that initial first line of defense. So now you have that LeGarrette Blount, and even if they don't use LeGarrette, if you line up on the 2-yard line and you put LeGarrette Blount in the backfield, the chances are the defense is going to be like, okay, they're running this up the middle. But now, if we do pass, at least it opens up the passing game. Whereas before, it's like, okay, Amir Abdullah's back there. Yeah, okay, yeah, you're either way. If you want to run, we're okay with that. If you want to pass, like we have the. So now you actually have a guy, and even if they don't have Blount, you have Kerryon Johnson, who's a little bit bigger as well. So you have the option to put that guy out, even if you don't plan on throwing the ball. Just having the guy back there makes it look like, hey, they can do either one here. We need to make sure that we cover all bases. Whereas before, we haven't had that for literally 10 years.
I do think they use him though. You're not going to bring him in and not use him. And I think he's very capable.
For sure.
Pounding that rock down there. So.
And we all know what Theo Riddick is. Like, Theo Riddick is not a first and second down guy. He is strictly a passing down.
Who was the fullback that we used to have? Was it Corey Schlesinger?
Schlesinger.
He was the only guy that we've had in the last probably 15 seasons.
Was he fullback?
Yes, the only 15 seasons that we've had, and I didn't write that down, but I'm pretty sure that's a name. If it's not, I apologize to all Lions fans out there. But when we had him on the team, we had a white fullback. I'm pretty sure his name was Corey Schlesinger, and he was the only other guy. Like, that's it. That's all we've had. So I'm anxious to see what happens there when we do finally get into the red zone. Hey, we have options now, guys. Like, let's use all the options. Unfortunately, they're in a very tough division. You have Minnesota, who's got a great defense, Green Bay, who always seems to beat us every single year, and then you have the Bears, who are just like, okay, but our division, I just don't see where we fit in there. I just don't know if we can win 10 or 11 games. I just don't see that happening. So I don't feel very confident.
A small hit to that run game was the fullback that you guys drafted, who was a very good fullback in college, who went down. He's out for the season.
Bodden.
Bodden.
Mm-hmm.
Why did I think Ragnow? Bodden. So yeah.
Ragnow's offensive lineman who we took.
Oh, that's right. The center, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is he center? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's another beast too. So that
our offensive line this
addressing the
season,
running
I'm
game.
telling you, our offensive line and our running game has definitely gotten a lot better. And it sucks because I look at their schedule and I have Detroit finishing 8-8, and last season we were 9-7. So I actually have them taking a step back a little bit, and because I looked at their team, and we have a tough schedule. And you play Minnesota twice, Green Bay twice. We just have I look down the list and I'm like, I'm trying to find out where we're gonna win, and it's tough. And so I feel like we made changes in the areas that we needed. I just don't think it's enough.
I think the Bears and Detroit both improved, but you guys cannot get over the hump of Green Bay and Minnesota.
I agree. So do you want to move on to wide receiver core? You have two main guys. You have Golden Tate and you have Marvin Jones,
which is a great 1-2 punch for any team, because you got two guys that are finishing in the top 15 last year, and then you're adding somebody coming into a second year like Kenny Golladay. So I think Kenny Golladay, when is he going to take that leap?
So, okay, that's a great question. So on my paper here, when I was researching, I put a huge highlight on Kenny Golladay. He played 11 games last season, okay? He only had 28 catches on 48 targets. Not that great. He had 3 touchdowns. Most of them came in the first couple weeks of the season. And then he kind of,
right?
and then he tailed off because he got hurt. So, but here's where it changes for me. My concern is that tight end. And we lost Eric Ebron, who had 53 catches on 86 targets, okay? That's 86 targets now that aren't there. And we didn't replace Ebron with anyone that's relevant at all. So to me, it's Marvin Jones getting 9 touchdowns last season. To me, that's coming down. There's no way he's going to have a repeat season of Marvin Jones getting 9 touchdowns. So you cut that in half. You give him 4.5, 5 touchdowns in that range. Where are the other 86 targets and all these other touchdowns that Stafford's going to throw? Where are they going to go? To me, the only red zone target that's a relevant red zone target that's a bigger guy is Kenny Golladay. So I don't want to put all my eggs in his basket and say that he's going to be the superstar, but I just don't see where else all these red zone targets are going to go. They're not going to go to Luke Wilson and Toy Lolo and Marvin Jones, who's tiny. You have Golden Tate, who's even smaller than him.
But maybe it goes back to what you said before, and they run the ball now.
Right. Well, that's an option. But now if you have Kenny Golladay that's in the red zone, he is healthy, and he had 48 targets last season in 11 games. If 86 of those targets that went to Eric Ebron, if just 40 more of those, half of those, goes to Kenny Golladay, I think that he has a decent season and has potential to be a flex spot guy that you can start as like your 3rd or your 4th receiver every single week. But I wouldn't feel confident in being like, let's roll him out every single week. Like, you would have to see it first and make sure that that's what Detroit's going to kind of go towards before I make that decision. But of the 3 guys, Golladay, Tate, and Marvin Jones, I think Golladay has a huge bump up, and I think that the guy that's going to take the biggest hit is Marvin Jones. Tate has been solid for 4 seasons. You know exactly what you're going to get. You're going to get 1,000 yards. You're going to get 90 catches. You know that. Marvin Jones, a little bit of a roller coaster ride. Where do you got? I mean, who's the number 1 receiver here?
Golden Tate's the number 1 receiver here. Marvin Jones, I know they have him listed as number 1 right now because it's just a different position. Because Tate, he primarily plays from the slot, even though he can play outside as well. I think that Kenny Golladay does take the jump up. I think that if you put Jones and Golladay on the outside and you put Tate in the slot, it's going to be tough to double team those guys. And
I just love all the moves that they've made so far.
Adding Luke Wilson to the tight end crew and getting rid of Eric Ebron, to me, that wasn't a huge acquisition. It's a guy replacing. Okay. Even though he has 2 L's in his last name, which is kind of cool for Wilson, I don't think that really means a whole lot.
Well, I'm about to give him an L right now. So Eric Ebron had 53 catches last season and had the last 7 weeks we kind of went over on another episode and he didn't do much. You think Luke Wilson gets anywhere near 53 catches? Travis?
I don't really care about Luke Wilson.
Take the under. Exactly.
The
Why not though? Is he draftable?
The tight end on that team that I like is Roberts.
Like, Michael Roberts?
I liked him last year. I mean, clearly tight ends take a while to develop. But he was known as a red zone threat, and he scored a lot of touchdowns in college. He's a big guy. So, I mean, he's 6'5", 265.
Where's he out of?
Toledo?
Yep.
So he's a rocket.
This, for me, and going back to Marvin Jones, Golden Tate, Marvin Jones is number one to me. I mean, 1,100 yards and 9 touchdowns versus 1,000 yards and 5 touchdowns by Golden Tate. Like, I think Marvin Jones is disrespected all the time.
No, let's say this though. Like
the one year he had a huge start and then fell off the map. Everybody has this. They have feelings. They feel some type of way about Marvin Jones, and it still lingers. I think. I mean,
because this is what it comes down to me.
He was good in Cincinnati.
Yes, there might not be a clear-cut number one guy. Maybe that's the argument that we should probably be attacking instead of picking a side.
They have 2 great receivers
for sure. 2 top 15 guys that have been producing fantasy-wise. We're talking. But if you look at the targets, okay, Golden Tate had 120 targets. Marvin Jones had 107, okay? So very, very close together. One had 92 catches, the other one had 61. So with 13 targets difference, which is very small, one had 30 more catches than the other guy, and the other guy.
What type of targets do those guys get?
That's my point.
One guy gets short targets.
That's the guy that I want. That's that's almost like comparing Jarvis Landry to Devontae Parker. Jarvis Landry's always going to get those receptions because he has shorter routes and slants and whatever, and he gets quality targets.
But
whereas
what doesn't Landry get?
Touchdowns.
Is what Jones.
Until last year.
Okay,
that's an anomaly to me. That's
exactly. Okay, so Marvin Jones had nine touchdowns. Tate had 5. I think next season, at the end of the season, they're both going to be right around 6 to 8. Neither one of these guys is going to get 10 touchdowns. So that's just not their. That's not their game. Sure. If anyone's going to get 10 touchdowns, it's going to be Golladay, and that's outlandish as well. I'm just saying he's going to be used as a touchdown red zone guy.
I think he takes a bump.
Who?
Golladay.
Yes.
I think he takes a bump. I don't know if it's that big of a bump. I expect his bump really to be next year. Like his 3rd year, I really think that maybe one of those guys leaves.
Yes.
Even if they don't, 3rd year is notoriously the year where they've had those couple years, they got everything together, they know everything that's going on, they know what they're supposed to do, and he's going to have a great rapport by that time and enough under his belt playing time experience that he could really take off. I think he's going to get a bump this year. I don't think it's as big.
This is the year to buy him then.
But yeah.
Dynasty? Yeah, for sure.
One last thing I wanted to add. Stafford had 570, or the Detroit Lions had 570 passing attempts. And there's not that many mouths to feed there, okay? They throw to the running back a little bit, but to me, like you have 570 targets that are available. And Tate had 120, Marvin Jones had 107. That's only 227 targets, okay? You still have Golladay, all the tight ends, Theo Riddick, Kerryon Johnson. There's like some 300-ish targets that are up for grabs. Like that's a ton of targets. Somebody in this offense is going to overexceed their value at where they're getting drafted. Somebody is going to be a big boom because 120 targets for Tate and 107 for Marvin Jones. That's wide receiver 1. Like they can go up a little bit, maybe get like 130-ish targets, but somebody else is going to get a significant amount of targets here, and we just need to figure out who that is.
About 85 of those or so went to running backs.
Right, so. But they can keep those. Even if you give the running backs 100, that's only 300 something. You still have 200 targets available. Like where are they all going? Galladay gets 100 maybe. There's no way I think he get that many. But if he did, there's still another 100 targets for the tight ends. Like it's just
60 or 70 went to tight end last year.
Right. Right. So and
I think the main story is they spread the ball around.
Yes, but just to touch on the tight ends, is there anybody that you guys think is draftable in redraft?
Not in redraft.
In redraft, no.
In dynasty, anyone?
Like
Michael Roberts, maybe?
Like, I like Roberts as a flyer, as a deeper
Okay.
kind of guy. I wouldn't like draft him to be my number one, but
100% agree on both the tight end
premium
takes. Okay, next,
Green Bay.
Green Bay Packers.
oh, boy.
What was their record last year?
7-9. 7-9 Green Bay,
They also got ravaged by injury.
Well, yeah, especially with Rodgers.
well, yeah. No Rodgers. They finished 4-4 at home, which is not like them because they usually, when you go into Lambeau, you kind of expect to win from the Packers. So they were 4-4 at home. They were 3-5 on the road. The majority of that was with Hundley for the whole entire second half of the season. So you can't put that much weight to it.
They had 2 stretches where they lost 3 in a row.
Yeah, which is I don't think ever happened.
In a while.
Maybe ever. Yeah.
Not under Rodgers' belt.
Or Brett Favre, maybe. I mean, think
Right.
about it.
Okay, back to Don Majkowski.
So
Not twice in 1 year, anyway.
correct. So you have Aaron Rodgers. He's QB at the worst, QB 2 or 3 in the entire league. You know what you're getting from him. He's being drafted as a QB 1 in most dynasty leagues, redraft as well.
No one's
anything you
gonna
wanna
argue
add?
that.
Yeah, anything you want to add from them? No.
No, move
Okay.
on.
Running back.
This is the real discussion.
Okay, let's go.
Let's not dip too much into this because we are going to do
Just the toe?
a committee show on
Just
this.
the big toe?
But yeah, however you want to slice their running back depth chart, which obviously hasn't been placed out by Green Bay, you have Ty Montgomery, you have Jamal Williams, and you have Aaron Jones.
Okay.
I think this is going to be a full-blown committee. I think that all 3 of these guys are going to get touches, and to me, it's going to be a headache from week to week deciding on who you're going to play if all 3 of these guys stay healthy.
Is it just a little headache or like a migraine?
I don't want any part of this in a redraft. I don't want any of these 3 guys in a redraft because I don't want to waste a high pick on somebody that I don't know. Unless I can get one of these guys super late to maybe hopefully plug in like on a flex play, but I don't think any of these guys will reach running back 2 status.
Here's where they're going, if you guys care. Aaron Jones.
This is not redraft, though.
This is redraft. I did both
Whoa.
because I over-prepare, guys.
It's a little early for redraft mods.
Okay,
Well,
anyways.
it is early.
And it's never early enough,
Too
and
early.
you guys remember that. Redraft. Aaron Jones is going number 80 overall, which is 7th round.
Mhm.
7th round, pick 6. So middle of the 7th round. Ty Montgomery is going in the 9th round. Okay, 2 full rounds after at number 103. And you have Jamal Williams going after both of those in the
Really?
10th round, number 114 overall in redraft leagues.
So everyone feels the way I do.
So now you
He's
okay,
my
but-
least favorite guy.
Okay,
But that's a
okay,
value.
okay. That's exactly what I was gonna say. Of the value, Aaron Jones in the mid 7th, Ty Montgomery mid 9th, Williams is a 10th. Of now that you know where they're going, if you had to pick one that you're gonna own and you're gonna put your stock in for where they're going draft wise, who do you feel more comfortable? Since you just said it's a committee, so you think all 3 are gonna kind of
I'll
you know,
probably go Montgomery in the 9th if I'm
Okay.
going just strictly based off value.
You know what's funny is I would too. Like I think Aaron Jones is too high at the 7th because I think the other 2 guys are going to eat into the receptions and otherwise.
Mhm.
I think Jamal Williams. I like that he's going 10th in the 10th round, but I just don't.
That's
I
your
don't.
guy, though,
I
right?
it is like you would think that I would be more invested in Jamal Williams, but I think that losing Jordy Nelson and having Ty Montgomery there, as I think Ty Montgomery is better than Geronimo Allison and the all the rest of the rookies that they drafted there. I think it goes Devontae Adams, Randall Cobb, and I think Ty Montgomery ends up finishing as the number 3 receiver in any aspect, whether you throw to him out of the backfield or you throw to him in the slot or you throw to him wherever you're going to throw to him. I think he ends up being the wide receiver 3 on this team, and I'll take that with carries that you're going to possibly get as well.
I think that if the coaching staff is willing to move him around, I think that Montgomery's a guy that they can really
Correct.
move around a
Right.
lot. And I'm
Right.
not saying just in the backfield. I'm like saying like every once in a while you put him in the slot, and every once in a while you run him out of the backfield on a route. He's the kind of guy that can do that. But if he's gonna have to take a back seat to Aaron Jones or Jamal Williams game to game, he's not going to be a consistent guy that you can play every single week until
He's
it
a
shakes
flex
out.
guy to me, though. You can play him at running back or receiver in most fantasy leagues right now. He's listed as both, so take advantage of that. What?
He is?
Yep.
In our format, he is? No, he's not.
Maybe.
Get out of here. I call BS on that. I feel like it comes down to, like I've heard this before from, I think Sigmund Bloom likes to say this. It's the assumption of rational coaching, which is what we think he is capable of doing, and they should use him as, but does McCarthy do that? Like, have we ever seen
Right.
McCarthy really take a running back and move him around like that?
No.
Do they really use a committee up there? They usually tend to have a starter and use that guy, and then when that guy goes down, it seemed like a committee last year because the guys that got hurt weren't available.
But
If
the
they
year,
were
bef-
available,
the year
they would've just
before,
ran
the year
a guy.
before that
Right.
happened too, though.
Mhm.
They get for whatever reason they have a
Eddie
lot
Lay-
of injuries at the running back position,
Yeah.
and not all of them are like season ending. But even going back a couple of years, you had Eddie Lacy who got hurt.
James Starks.
You had James Starks who got hurt. It's like all these guys just end up getting hurt. So we haven't really seen if they just run one running back. Clearly, Green Bay is not a running team.
I think we have. I think we have. Yes, those guys have gotten hurt, but the thing is the one guy goes down, and then there's still two more guys, and they're
Right.
not using those necessarily as a committee. They're banging one guy. I gotta stop doing that.
It's your dream.
I need a new.
You go find it the
Stop using banging.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stop using banging. Maybe.
Okay.
No one wants to
You
get banged.
run.
Thumping.
Yeah, you're thumping that guy.
You're slaying. Yeah.
Okay, so you run that guy. They usually run the one guy, and then either he gets hurt, and then they take the next guy and they run him. Like I was going back because we've had this discussion with these three guys a few times, and then I think a lot of people probably had the discussions with this backfield. I went back and I was watching some games from last year, and early in the year when it was just Ty Montgomery, who he got hurt in like week 6. Like it was just him. Like it was literally just him on like everything. Like he was back there pass blocking, he was back there doing everything. They didn't throw to him as much as I thought. And going back and looking at some of the things, there wasn't as many like receptions and targets that I had expected to
Yeah, 30 targets, 23 catches.
But he played most of the season, even though he came back and he was still not whatever until he got put on IR, like week 11 or 13 or whatever it was around there. But from 11 on, he didn't play. The same team in this division is the ones that put him out. He broke his ribs against Chicago, and then next time they played Chicago, that's what put him out again. So Chicago doesn't like time to go.
And they'll do it again.
Yeah, they'll do it again. So, like, I think he has the talent, and I do think they like him. They converted him because he showed flashes. He did good. He came in. He was the guy getting the rock. By all accounts, I feel like he's going to get kind of the good shot. They have a few options, though, they found, I feel like. But the most dynamic guy, as far as a running back, I feel like might be Aaron Jones. Like, he had, like, the biggest plays, the most dynamic plays. When you go back and look, the biggest, longest runs were from, like, Aaron Jones. And
Was he on the longest drive?
The big spark plays were from Aaron Jones. And when he came in and got the starting job, he had the best games.
Okay.
So
I'll let that slide for now because we're going to talk about that later. Do you want to move on to wide receivers real quick?
let's move
I
on.
mean, it's pretty clear-cut draw. You have Devontae Adams, a number 1. He's going to be a top 7 at the worst wide receiver this season. You have Randall Cobb as the number 2. They lose Jordy Nelson. So the wide receiver 3, to me right now, is kind of for grabs, and that's between Geronimo Allison. You have Jamon Moore, who they drafted. Marquez Valdez-Scantling they drafted. And they also drafted Equanimeous St. Brown. So the wide receiver 3, to me, is like the most... That's what I kind of want to talk about. I mean, we already know Devontae Adams is the 1. Is everyone pretty concise that Randall Cobb's number 2?
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't have to really touch on them. But the number 3, they lose Jordy Nelson, who had 88 targets last season, and he also had 6 touchdowns. They also lost Martellus Bennett, who was a red zone target as well when he was healthy, but they added Jimmy Graham. So the wide receiver 3, who comes out as the wide receiver 3? Geronimo Allison, or is it a rookie? Jamon Moore, St. Brown, Scantling.
To me, it's easily Geronimo Allison.
Really?
I think he's earned some of the trust of Aaron Rodgers. Like, Aaron Rodgers is not going to throw to rookies on a consistent basis. Like, he has to earn their trust.
Okay, okay. Would you feel the same?
I think that it goes to Geronimo Allison because he's been there the longest and he hasn't like let Rodgers down. Like, he's not like leading the league
on
in
the
drops.
field, or
He's not leading the league in letdowns.
Correct.
He's got 2.
Watching the first few games, like last night I was watching like the first 4 or 5 games of the season from last year, just Green Bay I was watching. And Allison was involved a whole lot more than I remember. It may not completely show up in the stat box, but he was involved in a lot of plays, and his name and his number was kind of being called by the announcers more so than I ever gave him credit for. So yeah, I kind of think that Allison does have the first crack. Now, I do think it's up in the air as well. Like, somebody comes in and they start showing out, it's not solidified. He's not like solidified, but I think he has got a leg up on some of the other guys.
Okay, I'll agree with that, but I think that when the season comes to an end, I think Jamon Moore and I think Geronimo Allison are very close. However that shakes down, fantasy points wise, I think they're very close. But Geronimo Allison, I agree, probably should be the number 3. Tight end, you have Jimmy Graham and Lance Kendricks. You have Mercedes Lewis. To me, Jimmy Graham obviously is a clear-cut guy. He destroyed red zone targets last season in Seattle, but we all know that Green Bay doesn't use their tight ends very well. Right. So does Jimmy Graham fall off, or does he maintain all these red zone targets because Jordy Nelson left? He's obviously the biggest guy in the team as far as red zone target wise, because you have Devontae Adams, who they love to throw to in the red zone, but let's be honest, Jimmy Graham's a lot bigger than him.
But they'll throw to Randall Cobb in the red zone.
Right, he'll throw to anybody.
Where Cobb has 3 touchdowns, so they'll throw to anybody. So I think that Jimmy Graham's stats take a little bit of a backseat, but I don't think it's like this major drop off.
Right. Well, nothing's going to be a major drop off for a receiver or tight end if you go to Green Bay. It shouldn't, because you have Aaron Rodgers. For some reason, though, it's been tight end lately has been getting the biggest hit. When you move to Green Bay, all of a sudden you're just not relevant. But I mean, there's no way Jimmy Graham doesn't finish as a tight end 1.
Yeah, I'm slowly coming around to liking the thought or the idea of Jimmy Graham being relevant in a redraft for me, because I do think he will get those red zone looks, and I do think Rodgers will use him. He has small spurts of that former athleticism. It's not going to be strung together with some of the stuff he used to do that you know him for. But I think he will have some good games, and I do think he'll have the touchdowns.
It's just, when is that going to happen? Okay, the last team, you have Minnesota Vikings, the winner of the division last season. They finished. Travis pooped his pants. You have 13-3 last season. They were 7-1 at home and 6-2 on the road.
Yeah.
But we got a lot of new pieces here.
A lot.
Number 1
on the offense.
Well, yeah, you have a quarterback that's Kirk Cousins.
Okay.
To you guys, is that an upgrade or downgrade from Case Keenum? Because he played like a damn champion last season, Case Keenum. So you have Kirk Cousins, who's kind of...
I think his name is an upgrade.
Not the most consistent.
Right. Crazy. It's a definite upgrade.
Is it? No, honestly, is it?
Yeah.
Dude, Case Keenum, that offense was perfect for Case Keenum.
It all came together and worked very well, yes. But... look, I don't understand how all of a sudden Case Keenum is getting thrown around with, like the way his name cachet.
I'll tell you why. Because he didn't play. You don't have like a 4-game sample size or a 6-game sample size like Deshaun Watson. He played for like about 14 weeks out of the season and
how many
annihilated.
years has he played, and he's always been a number 2.
Okay, but look where he was. Houston before DeAndre Hopkins. So they had literally nothing there in Houston. And then where else did he go?
The Rams.
The Rams before they didn't have anything.
Your point is taken. Yes. And you have Cousins, who is on a team that's kind of whatever. A lot of people getting hurt, no running game, this and that. Now he goes to this situation.
Right.
With a good running game,
I agree.
good receivers.
I agree.
Good coaching.
I think it's going to be
good line, good defense. How is this not an upgrade?
They lost their offensive coordinator. He went on to go coach the Giants.
Cousins going to finish the top 10 guy. There's not much to say about him. I just don't know if it's upgrade or downgrade in Case Keenum. So let's move on. We all agree that he's going to be a top 10 guy, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, move on to running back situation. So now again, here's another situation to me that's changed. You lose McKinnon, and you add Dalvin Cook, who was only there for the first 3.5 weeks of the season. So now you have a different running back that's going to be in the backfield, taking the bulk load of the carries. You still have Murray.
I don't know if it's different, because he started last year as basically the guy.
For the first 3 weeks, that's it. He got hurt week 4, I think.
Right, but it's not like you're adding him. He's just coming back.
Okay, but he's coming off season in injury, and I don't like those guys.
Unless they're quarterbacks.
Unless they're Andrew Luck.
By all accounts, he's been doing very well. He looks good. He's coming back from that injury very nicely.
Any concern, or do you guys think he finishes RB1 pretty easily?
I'm concerned because he had injuries in college too. So can I see a full season of being healthy before I'm ready to stamp his passport?
All right.
It's football, so I don't know if you're going to see that from anybody necessarily.
He's not on planet healthy yet. He's not on planet healthy yet, but if assuming he does stay healthy, he finishes RB1 pretty easily.
Yes. If he stays healthy, yes.
I agree. Wide receivers?
Where my whole thing is really fast, just before you move on, is Dalvin Cook. If he goes down like he did last year, they used a committee with Murray and McKinnon, and it worked great because they used both those guys really well. If Cook goes down again this year,
it's Murray's job, I think.
Yeah, but there's no one else behind Murray. So
Mac Brown.
Right.
Exactly.
So that could cause problems.
But that could change as well. I mean, there's always guys to bring up or fill in.
That's where DeMarco Murray fits in. Wide receivers. So you have 2 top 24 for sure. Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs is the 1 and 2. They have newly added Kendall Wright there as well. You also have Laquan Treadwell. Other than that, I don't see any other talent whatsoever. So it's basically a Thielen and Diggs show. Wide receiver 3, it's going to be between Treadwell and Wright.
To me, Wright and Treadwell aren't draftable in redraft leagues.
For sure.
Correct.
So Adam Thielen had 142 targets last season. How many drops do you see Adam Thielen having? Not you, Jay. Travis, how many drops do you think? You think Adam Thielen's pretty sure-handed, right? I mean, 5. He had 5 drops.
Yeah. See,
it's a lot, bro.
That's not really a lot.
Drop's a drop. And
Okay,
you know
so
what was
show me
also
the top-
alarming?
Top 15 guys
This
with
was-
drops and
okay.
how many they had.
This is the other thing. He had not only did he have 5 drops, he had 3 lost fumbles. Like when I hear Adam Thielen, I think like he's a sure-handed guy. Like he's like a Amendola or like a Golden Tate kind of guy. Like you
No,
drop like one
how
or
do you
two.
think that? This guy goes deep. This guy is more of the field stretcher kind of guy. Like how do you think he's like Tate or Amendola?
I meant like sure-handed wise.
Well, yeah, it's easy to be sure-handed when you're catching 5-yard passes versus going down the field.
Okay, well, he had 3 fumbles as well, which kind of was alarming to me. You had Stephon Diggs, who only played 14 games. He had 95 targets. He also had 2 drops. And then, like, to me, it's just those 2 guys.
Do we think that...
I think both of them regress. I think both of them take a step back.
That's what I'm saying. Do we think both of these guys have
Yes.
a chance to go over 1,000 yards? Both of them.
Yes.
Both together, no.
I don't think
No
both
chance.
of them will.
One of the two will.
I think it's an upgrading quarterback. I think these are the best weapons that he's ever had. So, I mean, it all just depends on the offensive coordinator and how they kind of work things out. Granted, it's changed. But do they have the chance to? Definitely they do.
Like, you might have a situation where Minnesota is going to be leading a lot of these games because their defense is so strong, and they might not have to throw the ball 40 times, which Case Keenum didn't throw the ball 40-something times a game last season. But when he did throw it, it was all accurate, short routes, and then it opened up the passing game where he was able to throw deep and take chances. I don't think they need that with Kirk Cousins. Like, with the season that's coming in right now, the defense is strong. You have Dalvin Cook back. You have all the same pieces as far as the Thielen and the Diggs and whatever. I just think that a lot of the passing stats kind of regress a little bit. Not because Cousins is not as good as Keenum, just because they don't need it.
Do you know how many
don't
1,000-yard receivers Kirk Cousins has played with?
0.
0.
Right. It's just, I
So
don't.
what does that mean? Tell
That
me
means
what
he
that
hasn't had a 1,000-yard receiver to...
Okay, I know that's what you just said. He hasn't had a 1,000-yard receiver. So what does that mean for this year? That it's impossible for him to have a 1,000-yard receiver?
No, I'm saying I don't...
That's what it sounds like.
I'm saying I don't think it's possible for him to have 2 1,000-yard receivers after having none his entire career.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
Dalvin Cook, you think that like he's a good catching back, right?
Yes.
Okay. Dalvin Cook in the 4 games or 3.5 games that he played, he had 16 targets, right? 11 catches. So 11 catches, 16 targets, 3 drop balls. Out of the 5 missed targets that weren't on him, there was 5 targets that he didn't catch. 3 of them he dropped. So out of 16 balls that was thrown his way, he dropped 3 of them.
What does that mean to you?
To me, that puts him in Jordan Howard status.
That's fucking crazy, dude. Like, he's 16 targets.
Right.
Have
And
you
he
looked
dropped
at, have
3
you
of them.
looked at the drops?
A drop means that it hit both of his hands. So I don't
No,
need to see it.
That doesn't mean...
A drop means it hit his hands.
It does? Is that the definition of what a drop is in the NFL?
Yeah, if it throws
Show
and
me
it hits
that.
his
Show
foot.
me that. Show me
If I spike the ball on your
Pull-
foot, is that a drop?
Pull that up where the NFL says
Let me
that.
ask you: if I throw a ball and it hits you in the helmet and you're not looking at it, is that considered a drop? No. If I throw it at your foot, is it
What does that
considered a drop?
have to do with anything you just said?
I just said it has to hit his hands for it to be a drop.
Says you or says the NFL?
Yes,
Okay.
both.
Correct.
All I'm saying is everyone looks at Dalvin Cook
It's
like
only
he's this big.
3 drops, dude. Let's go
Only
look at 'em.
3.
Let's go look at them.
Only 3. Okay, we will after this episode. We will.
About
After this
the
episode, we will.
fumbles. Let's go dive into some situations and see. Hey, was that really Thielen's fault that he fumbled those balls, or was it just one of those things? Football plays happen. Fumbles do happen. Drops do happen. It's part of the game.
16 targets, 3 drop balls. Would be alarming to me in any situation, regardless if it's Dalvin Cook we're talking about or we're talking about Jay Up. It doesn't.
But if it's in such a small sample size,
Right.
and you know you didn't get to see a full season, do you think that would be the same thing?
I would hope not, but you don't have that reference to go to, so you don't know that.
But
you
you're
don't
taking
know.
it like gospel, and you just said you don't know that. So
Right. I
how
just-
much weight are you putting into that, though?
Enough to
Because
where
it's
it
such a
concerns
small
me that
sample
they got rid of Jerick McKinnon, who was a pass catching back last year. They got rid of him. Latavius Murray to me is not a pass catching back whatsoever. So if everything's going to filter through the passing game in the backfield, is going to be Dalvin Cook, and he's dropping 3 balls out of 16 targets. I want to look into that. If I'm going to if I'm going to blow my wad on him as my number 1 running back, I want to see.
I was more surprised that he got 16 targets in a small sample size. Like, to me, that means they want to throw him the ball.
For sure, yeah. They
How was he in college though? As he was pretty much
He was
kind of known as
he was-
being able to catch the ball quite
He
a
was-
bit.
he was exquisite.
Didn't he have shoulder surgeries or something?
He did.
I mean, you've seen a larger sample size of him being able to catch the ball and being very productive than that small sample size in the beginning of the season last year. So I don't think that, like, if he never caught the ball in college and that happened, like, I could kind of see that. But it's such a small sample size that it doesn't worry me myself.
You saw that, right? 3 drops and a fumble. Just saying. I'm not saying I'm not a fan of Dalvin Cook by any means. I'm just saying, like, if everyone's so tied into Jordan Howard being this horrible pass catcher, and you just cannot throw him the ball. Like, you just can't. Like, the Jordan Howard stats that I just gave you was he had 32 targets and he had 5 drops. So
Okay.
now Dalvin
Full
Cook.
sample size and the same sample size as Cook's. You're taking a whole season, and Cook in only a few games almost had more catches than him.
Oh, I agree
So-
that Cook's going to have a ridiculous amount of catches. I just don't like the fact that he's dropping 3 balls out of 16 catches, passes. Look at those injury history.
3 shoulder surgeries.
3 shoulder surgeries. He's got a foot injury in there somewhere. He's got a knee injury in there somewhere. Hamstring injuries, ankle injuries. I see.
So
I mean,
clearly, you don't like him.
I wouldn't want to invest in. Okay, out of the draft class from last season, the Fournettes, the McCaffreys, Mixons, whatever. Cook, I love the talent. If the volume's going to be there, which clearly it is because they got rid of McKinnon, the volume's going to be there. I love him. I'm not trying to say that I hate on him, but if I have McCaffrey, who's never been hurt, it's a little bit younger, in the offense that he's in, I'll take McCaffrey. I'll also take Mixon over Cook because I think he's going to have a longer career. The guys that aren't injury prone, I'd rather have Fournette than Dalvin Cook, because if I'm going to invest in a guy that's 22 years old and he's going to be my number 1 option at running back, I want no injury history and the least amount of risk. And to me, Dalvin Cook's a huge risk.
I can't read this guy on injuries.
I can't really tell either, but I'm just saying, I like Dalvin
I'll tell you
Cook,
off
but
air exactly what it is.
I'm just saying maybe
We
the
don't have the
drops
time right
are
now.
leading to the shoulder stuff because he had a shoulder surgery in high school. He had 2 shoulder surgeries in college. So I'm just saying maybe that's a reason why. Maybe he can't.
Yeah,
get his
sign me
hands
up for a
on it.
running back 1.
Maybe he can't get his hands.
Maybe he can't catch the ball.
Right, I bet you all 3 drops were above his head.
Let's look that up and see if the drops are above
Let's
his
go
head.
back and watch those games.
Yeah.
Okay.
Remember how electric that kid
Okay,
was.
so we will. Thielen and Diggs, we both like. I just don't know if any one of them is going to finish as a wide receiver 1 this season, but I feel
Kyle
very.
Rudolph's top 12
and-
tight end.
And Kyle Rudolph is a top 12 tight
Consistent.
end, and that is what it is. All right, we're at 51 minutes. We good?
Crack and cold ones?
Let's crack it.
No, we're gonna crack a cold one, and we're gonna look at the drops. Okay?
Yes.
Crack and drop.
Drop and crack.
Drop those cracks.
Fucking 3 drops.
Oh, Lord.